You're listening to The Unstoppables, where each week we show you how to overcome obstacles and transform the sting of failure into the reward of growth. And now, here's your host, best-selling author, keynote speaker, and CEO, Bill Wooditch.
This is The Unstoppables, the place where we take a match to the boat. That's right. Because if you're going to be unstoppable, if you're going to go forward in life, if you're going to overcome the hard knocks, the adversity, you're going to have to burn your boat. Burning your boat, as legend would have it, in ancient Greece, is when the Greeks attacked an island, the commanders would burn most of the boats behind them, a signal to the men that there was no retreat, just plumes of smoke. The remaining boats were used for whatever plunder they would take back, and whoever remained from going always forward. That's the way. It's ultimate commitment. You want to get in the game, you got to play the game. You got to learn that you're going to get knocked down. You got to get back up. My friend has gotten back up a number of times. He's Dr. Charlie Cartwright. He's a highly sought after international business consultant and a great keynote speaker. He's the founder of People Success Labs, a Kansas City-based consulting firm whose sole purpose is to bring out the best in leaders and their teams. Other than being a Kansas City Chiefs fan, he's a great guy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for that intro. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm excited about this opportunity to chat with you.
You know, Dr. Charlie, you spent 20 years of your career working in and around leadership Fortune 500 companies. I mean, that's a heavy, deep immersion. The insights and the lessons are some of the things that I hope you would share with us today. So you can take me on a short walk and take me into your house when you grew up. Take me into the things that formed you at the kitchen table, and then bring me into today.
Wow, that's a journey. And so, yeah, I grew up in a little town called Olathe, Kansas. It's a suburb of Kansas City. And at the time I was growing up, it's about 35,000 people. And, you know, you're talking about the 1960s here. And so we had a lot of divide in the country and at that time. And it was a tough being a kid and African-American kid in a small Midwest town for sure. You know, I had a father that had a lot of struggles. Definitely alcoholism was one of them. And so, you know, there was just a lot of negative reinforcement inside the household. But I had a grandpa and a grandma that were pretty cool people. And my grandmother was an entrepreneur. You know, she cleaned houses and office buildings. I started helping her when I was about in middle school. And it just formed a lot of my work ethic and things like that. My grandfather was a World War II vet, and there's just so many lessons in that. And then I started playing football, and just playing football at a high level in high school and then in college. There are a lot of lessons in that team sport that apply to business. So then, you know, I started my career at UPS, decade there, and then a decade at FedEx. And so you're talking about a couple of premier organizations in their industries. And between the two, there's such a drive for success, such a drive to perform at a high level that it just became part of my DNA. So I really felt like, hey, you know what? If I take all the good things that I learned from, you know, my childhood and FedEx and UPS, and then apply that to who I am innately, and then, you know, bust my tail as far as researching and understanding human beings and what makes them tick and how to really connect with other people, because everything we do is through people and for people, right? And so the better we understand human beings, the better opportunity we have to be successful. And so, you know, I think I have some God-given ability for sure. And just maximizing that is what I do every day. And every day I get up to succeed, help other people, and get better, so that when my head hits the pillow tonight, I'm better than when I woke up. That's every day. And like Warren Buffett said, knowledge is like compound interest. Right. And the more you know, the more you learn, the more you earn. So it's exciting time.
Know, learn, and earn. And let me ask you about this formative year or formative years in your life. And I think this is, and I write this in my book as well, is that I came from a family that my father was an alcoholic. And what I took from that was what I call object lessons. And the object lesson, even at that young age, the teenage years and a little bit beyond, were one question: what do I want to be, and will that ever be me? And it was resounding no. So I learned from that to not make those mistakes. And a lot of the mistakes that we don't make are the mistakes that we avoid by not doing it in the first place. So I learned what I didn't want to be, and I kept that resolve. And that's really what helped me move forward. You also had a great example in the work ethic of your grandmother, correct?
Yes.
Entrepreneurial spirit, work ethics too. You had great examples to learn from. How important is that to immerse yourself with people, especially in youth, and really give them that lesson? And you're a living lesson that if you do these things, maybe you can move forward like Dr. Charlie.
Yeah, 100%. I believe that. And I'm always open to mentorship, meaning that if someone wants to just talk with me about, hey, what can I do moving forward? How can I improve? I never turn down an opportunity to help another human being get better, whatever it is they do. And for me, those are life-changing events, those conversations. There are so many things that my grandmother always laughed, and how I felt like she was kind of Mr. Miyagi and I was the Karate Kid. And I
Wax on,
didn't know,
wax off.
right? I didn't know I was learning solid business principles from this little woman, humbly, because all of her clientele were very well-to-do people, and she understood how to navigate that world, how to communicate with those people, how to get what she wanted, and how to deliver value. And she taught that to me. And I always give her credit for teaching me how to be a gentleman. And I think that's a lost art, and it's huge, and it's a big differentiator.
It is a huge differentiator. I had a client once, and it was a relatively large home builder. And he said, the reason you got this opportunity, the reason you got our account is you had manners and you comported yourself in a professional way with manners, treating people as people, not objects. You weren't looking at our wallet, you were looking at our hearts. And that meant the world to me, because I learned that early on, I didn't want to sell stuff from a brochure. I wanted to win the hearts and the minds. And that was an entirely different approach. You mentioned something, I think it's critical. And I'm going to probably lose some book sales on this, but people will ask me, what do you read? What do you do? And I'm a voracious reader, but I believe if you don't apply what you learn in there, the lessons, you're just living in a fantasy world. So for me, I suggest and point people to the study of human nature, not a certain business, but the study of people. How do we think? Why do we do what we do? What are our fears? What are our aspirations? Study people. One of the best ways, Dr. Charlie, get involved with people and learn. And that's how I did it. What do you say about that?
We're kindred spirits, Bill, because I am all about that. Anything that I can learn about other people, it helps me connect with people for the right reasons, of course. And it's a competitive advantage, because when I look at doing business with someone, I don't look at a potential customer or potential client. I look at them as a human being, and I want them to know that our connection is more than about business, right? It's more than about business. It's that human connection, and it just happens organically. There's so many people that, yes, it started out as a business relationship, but it's grown to much more than that. You know about their family, you know about your family, their children, their hopes and dreams. And so whenever I travel on the road to speak, it's like a homecoming. Every time I come to one of these places, like, oh, it's great to have you here, and I'm sad to leave, but glad to get home. And it's that cycle. But I'm with you that the human element is just overlooked by so many leaders, people that are striving, and they're looking at systems and they're looking at everything, but they're looking right over the people, right past them. And one of the analogies I use all the time, and people always laugh whenever I use it, but it's true. I say people every day walk past Clark Kent looking for Superman right in front of them. They walk past them, right? And so I love to identify those Clark Kents because they're all over the place, right?
I was on one of your LinkedIn posts. I know it was a good one. I got like tons of followers.
Yeah.
I got to say this, and I don't use this terminology for anyone except myself. You got a really cool vibe. You have like
Thank you.
I thought you get the humor in that, but you do. You have a really cool vibe. You got a very, very relatable, humble yet professional approach, and it comes across the screen. It really does. I can imagine what it's like in person. Hopefully, one day we meet.
100%.
But you got a really, really good approach. So I have to ask you, how do you in your terms, define what success is?
Wow, it's interesting because I was just thinking about that before we jumped on here this afternoon. And for me, there's elements to it and there's levels to it. And I feel like I've achieved a level of success, but I haven't approached my peak, my apogee yet. But it has to do with number one, am I making the world a better place? Number one, when people interact with me, do they feel better or worse about themselves, about their day? Am I adding value to people both personally and professionally? Am I getting better personally and professionally? And then, am I doing what I love to do? Am I doing what I want to do? Is this just about money or is it about people and passion? And for me, it's about people and passion. And of course, the financial aspect is important, but as you've spoken about, money echoes value,
Yes.
right? And so if you're adding value, that'll be there. But that's what gets me out of bed every day. And I just seek to make the world just a little better because I was here, and hopefully a lot better because I was here.
It's a great one. If you were going to draw from me the perfect mentor, someone you would mentee for you, someone that you would be like, what is that person? What are the aspirations? What do they look like? Why would I come and seek you? And why would you work with me as a mentee? To give me a little bit of that dynamic.
Yeah, I love people, and you when you see yourself in someone, you always love that. And I just had this burning desire. So it'd be someone that had a burning desire to succeed. They had a willingness to work hard, but they just didn't know what that looks like, what the roadmap is. They don't know. They want to know and they don't know. And they've tried this and they failed, and they tried this and they failed. So just to be able to shed light on their path and give them direction and let them know, hey, this failure that you feel you've hit, it's not the opposite of success. It's a part of it. It's a part of that journey. You needed that bruise. You needed that gut shot. You needed all those things. And this too, Bill, and that I'll never, hold my dad. I'll never hold my dad in high regard ever, because of the way he handled himself and the way he treated me. It was terrible. But I wouldn't be this guy.
That's right.
Right? He had to be that guy so I could be this guy. I mean, it just wouldn't exist without. And so that empathy, that humility, caring about other people, wanting to be better than that, it came from that struggle. It came from that pain. It came from that disappointment. And, I always say now that my father built this house of pain for me, and I'm burning it down.
That's brilliant.
To the ground. And so, yeah.
You just gave me a thought, and it brought me back to my table, to my condition, to the fear of coming into that house and never knowing what you were going to find when you opened the door.
You never knew.
No, but you and I owned the condition, and it enabled us. It didn't disable us through excuse. We didn't excuse it. We saw it for what it was. We moved forward through it. And I always tell people this. I said, look, for me to actually be free and liberated from the shadows of that, I had to accept what it was. This is what it was. This is it. Will I understand the reasoning behind it, why this happened? No, I won't. It's done. It's gone. But I got to be able to move forward from that and forgive what I can of what I know, but not so much all of the thoughts and stuff that go with it, because you do remember that. It does burn your way forward, but at a certain point, you got to disable that to be able to become the person you are. And I love that. Well, I'm with you with the match. All right.
There we go.
Torch that bitch. Where do we find you? Where do we connect to say, I want to hear more about you? Where do we find you, Dr. Charlie?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is a great place for me. Dr. Charlie Cartwright, LinkedIn. I'm the company culture doctor there. And so I put out video every day. I have a YouTube channel called Dashcam Wisdom. And so I've got a lot of my videos housed there. And those are the best two places to get a hold of me and my content.
He's got the best t-shirts. And by the way, I brought mine today, and he didn't wear his, but Dr. Charlie has on that dash cam, and on LinkedIn, you're going to see he has the best t-shirts. I only got Always Forward, but you've got some, I don't know where you get those made, but You got great t-shirts, man. We share something in common about a path, and a path for mentees and mentorship. And I always visualize it like this. That person at first, the person that I'm mentoring is walking just slightly behind me. And I'm trying to share the ideas that enable them to keep up and start moving next to me. So we're sharing. I'm never telling them what to do, how to do it, but I'm telling them what could happen, worst case, and let them come up with their ideas and thoughts. Very Socratic in the way that I do it. And then they're ahead of me and they're doing it, and I become redundant. And that is my ultimate goal in mentorship, is then they are the mentor and they are taking that lesson and exponentially moving it forward. I think you're probably very similar in terms of how you move down that path.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's so, I just love it when you see the light come on
Oh, yeah.
and really start making progress and moving forward. And then they kind of come into their own, right? And you've taught them how to fish.
There you
And
go.
now all of a sudden they're fishing and catching big ones. And that's so exciting.
You live your values. You're a value-laden guy. The followers that you have on LinkedIn are enthusiastic. You get tremendous engagement. Tell me about your values, because you're exporting values, and people are really drawn to your values. So tell me about the values and what's most important to you as a leader.
Yeah, so for me, it's really valuing human beings, right? Really caring about other human beings and loving human beings. That's a big one. And you don't hear, especially in corporate America, that love, you hear about we care about people, but do you love them? And I read this quote, Bill, you know how you come across different quotes and they're life changing. And this was a Pavarotti quote, right? When he was alive, he's considered world's greatest tenor. And he said, most singers want the audience to love them. He said, I love the audience.
Yeah.
Completely different, right? Mindset, paradigm. And so the people that follow my content, I love them and I want to add as much value to them as possible. And so there are so many days, Bill, where I'll make a post and I was like, yeah, you know, I don't know if that was my best, but you know what? And someone will write me a note to say, man, that's exactly what I needed today. That's your best post ever. I thought it sucked. And they were like, and so you just can never judge it. And so we have so much to share with folks. So it's important for us to share it and then let it sort out from there. And so I just love that, just human beings, caring about them, respecting them, and then loving them. And if I can do those things on a daily basis, then I'm really making a difference in the world. But what's more important is then those people go out and make a difference. And now we've got this ripple, this chain reaction
Right.
of positivity. And that's what I want to create, those positive ripples every time I drop a post or drop a quote, or we have a podcast like you and I sharing this energy, which I know people are going to feel that and say, you know what, I want that. I can do that. If they did it, I can do it.
Because it was a natural shift for you, but once you shifted, you felt the reciprocity in the shift. Going back to what you said about loving the audience, not needing to have the audience love you. That, whether you're walking into a boardroom to meet with a CEO or meeting with someone at Starbucks, that changes the entire dynamic when you make it about them and you're not so much, I'm in it because I want you to love me. You know, it's the weak leader that needs to be loved. It's the weak leader that needs to be feared. But let's strive for appreciation through what we do. And I think what you just said there, I don't want people to miss that. That's huge. You're not making it about you and your quota and the next rent check or the next Ferrari. You're making it about value in someone else's life so they can move forward. Like you said, when you put your head on that pillow, you know you've contributed for the day, and they can take that ripple effect and make a difference in other people's lives. That's exponential.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just, and that's what is so exciting. And then when you're feeling that impact and receiving notes and knowing that you're making a difference, then that fire is just stoked even more. And it gets me to thinking, what else can I do? You know, how can I expand this reach and touch more people? And now this is the exciting thing that we're in a global market. We're in this global environment now with virtual, that we literally touch people all over the planet. And so that's really exciting for me to just look at the prospects there.
What's the biggest surprise you had in the last few months during this seemingly endless pandemic, and why?
Wow, that's a great question. So the biggest surprise I would say would be the amount of support that I receive, notes, whether it be from you, from so many people that, and this is a true statement. So I'm 56 years old and I've received more positivity and support in the last 6 months than I did in the previous 56 years.
Wow.
So, I get emotional talking about that because, the news media portrays that there's all this evil and discord and hate and anger, and there is that, but it is such a small percentage of humanity. What I've experienced personally is humanity. It is what makes human beings special and great on this planet. And when you feel that kind of support and love, that it's just natural that it's going to pour out of me because it's what's being poured into me.
Yes.
And so that's been surprising to me. I was I've been blown away, frankly. And I receive at least a note every day, at least one. Some days if I receive two or three in a day, I get overwhelmed. One lady had left a voice. I didn't even know you could do this on LinkedIn. She left a voicemail for me on LinkedIn. And she said, "Hey, I thought about sending you a note." She said, "But I want you to hear my voice and how much this message meant to me." And that was huge for me because I was in one of those days where I'm like, am I on track? Am I, that whole you're
Sure.
recalibrating. And it was more confirmation for me to,
Yeah.
continue moving forward.
It's a great message. It's a great, that's good to hear as well. We all go through this. You and I have been through our bumps and we just keep moving forward. What was your biggest failure? What'd you learn from it?
Wow, man, I've had some big ones too, some huge ones. And I remember, so this goes back a couple of years, Bill. I went to a retreat, and unfortunately, the woman, Dr. Holly Lottie Mann, would teach this retreat, and she's retired, unfortunately, because it was such a valuable retreat. It's called the Leadership Trust. And so, I want to learn about leadership, and I had a week on my calendar. She had an opening and she reached out, "Hey, I've got this opening. And, if you can make it." It was the only opening on my calendar for the rest of the year. So I go to North Carolina and it's a week. And prior to that, there's homework you have to do. And you have to reach out to 30 people and they get these forms to fill out. So past coworkers, family members, friends, clients, and they had to give three things that you're really good at, and then three things that you have or need work on, or maybe you've let them down or failed in some way. And I remember getting there and feeling really good. And it was a very intimate setting. There's only 6 leaders in the class. And day 2, you get to stand in front of the class and read those comments. They're anonymous. And some of the things that were written in there, I felt ashamed of. And I remember one of the gentlemen that was in the class said, "I just saw the shame come across your face." So you literally, I came in, I'm CEO of People Success Labs, Dr. Charlie, international speaker, and now I'm reading how I let my daughter down, or I'm reading how I let my best friend down, or I'm reading how I let my brother-in-law down. And it was such a humbling event. And so I felt naked standing up there. And it was really good for me. But I swore that day that all that body armor that I was wearing, because I got to protect myself because I'm tough and I'm not going to let anything get in. I swore to myself that I'll never put that armor on again. This is who I am. And I need to be the best version of me, but I don't want anyone to ever think that I'm something that I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a life-changing thing for me. So I think the biggest failure was just finding out how people perceived some of my behavior. And that was not what I was after at all. and have it come to you that way. And people are, oh, but they're right. But everything he does good is so overwhelming that I put that to the side. But I was still ashamed of some of those things, and they were true. And so, yeah, it was amazing.
There's a liberation in finding out who you are, and then there's an obligation to act upon who you are and change that world. And yeah, there you go. We're in
100%.
alignment.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
What?
And that's so true. It's like the things that happen in childhood that they weren't my fault, but it's my responsibility to take that negativity out of who I am.
That's right.
So, and that's a life, as you know, it's a lifelong.
What do you do for? Now, I know you have fun doing this. I know you have fun getting honored, changing people's lives, and you are. They're changing them. You're giving them the actual fan to their ember, and it's creating that fire. You can see it. Well, what do you do for fun besides watch Kansas City games? Now it's a good time to do it. So,
Yeah, no doubt. So I actually like in normal times, I love going to theater. I love going to the movie theater and seeing stuff on the big screen. I love that. Comedy clubs, I love going, as long as they're not picking on me, I like to go and hear comedians and stand up. I like being out in nature and taking walks, and I love reading. And I love playing video. I'm a from the 80s, the video game revolution, the arcades. I still love gaming online. And so those are things I like to do.
I love that because I still play Madden.
I love it.
I ain't bad at it either. Okay. I'm just saying, but if you want to take your mind completely off of the reality of the moment, the situation, just light that up for about 4 hours. Okay. So,
So true. And I do a little, now I'm not live mic'd when I do this, but I do a little trash talking while I'm playing.
No, yeah. I want you to meet somebody that's one of your biggest fans. Jillian, come on over here to the camera. She is in charge of all my social media stuff. She's great. She tells me what to do and I do it. Jillian is a big fan of yours.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to meet you.
She will send me stuff and say, you got to watch this guy. That's how I really got on to you and said, wow, this is some really good stuff. And she just kept showing me. And she's a huge fan. She's
Awesome.
She's a Buffalo Bills. She's from Buffalo, so we won't hold that against her.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wrap with this. I want to ask you this, and I could keep you on for hours, and hopefully you have to come back and you do a deeper dive into some of the things that really enabled us to move through past conditions that so many people choose not to or cannot. But one more time, I want people to be able to find you. So tell me again where we can find you.
Yeah, Dr. Charlie Cartwright on LinkedIn, best place. Then Dashcam Wisdom is a YouTube channel. A lot of my videos are out on there. And you can always email me, drcharliecartwright@gmail.com.
Now comes the walk-off. It's time for you to get all of this one, and you will. You have ended your time on this earth as secular time is done, and you want to leave something for people to learn from Dr. Charlie. You want to leave it in terms of a paragraph. So what would that paragraph read? What would it read like? What would it look like? So you could teach people, hey, this is what the lessons I've learned on this earth.
Wow. That I would say just if you're, open enough, vulnerable enough to love other people, they're going to love you back. And if you're kind to others, they're going to be kind back. And I just think that regardless of your background, the different obstacles that have been put in your way, and you can overcome them. Where there's a will, there's a way. And if you seek help, you will find it. And if you seek guidance, you will receive it. And I think that also, once you learn these lessons and you overcome your challenges, pay it back, pay it forward. Find someone, each one teach one. Find someone that you can pass your knowledge on to. There's been so many young kids that have come to me, Bill. I've said, hey, you're struggling with this or that, or you're looking for some research. I got 35 years of research on my laptop. I'll give it to you to help you. What do you need? You know what I mean? So now it's on them. And that would be my message.
That's great. That's brilliant. But I expected nothing less. The only time you really let me down is in the t-shirt. I thought
that Chiefs t-shirt.
Yeah, no, that's okay. We'll just Well, we won't worry about that. I wear a Steeler one next time then. You can find The Unstoppables on iHeart, on Stitcher, on iTunes, on Spotify, any place where the great minds meet, converge, and learn the way forward. My special guest today, my new friend, is Dr. Charlie Cartwright. You are exceptional. I want you to keep doing what you're doing because we need you out there on that wall every day, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to The Unstoppables. If you liked today's episode, please consider subscribing. We have a new episode every Thursday. Please help spread the word of the show by leaving us a positive review on iTunes or Stitcher. Those 5-star reviews really help out the show. You can subscribe to The Unstoppables on iTunes, Spotify, or Stitcher to stay up to date on the latest episodes. Thanks again for listening. Always forward.